Hello, everybody. I am Darryl Howerton, and welcome to Women's Sports Cards, episode number 39. This one is titled, How I Price Cards on eBay. As you may have discovered by watching my videos the past 4 or 5 videos or so, you see that I'm now selling cards on eBay. There is a method to the madness of the prices that I set up on eBay, and I'm going to go into that right now. The first thing you need to know is what I call the quality valuator. It's a translator score I do for the grades that the cards are given. So I compare everything to a PSA 10 and give it percentage values based on that. So for instance, if I get a card that's graded an SGC 4, when I compare that to a PSA 10, I think it's worth 1% of whatever the 10 goes for. In the case of this 2014 Simone Biles rookie card, SI Kids, the PSA 9 version of the card goes for $1,000. There are no PSA 10s, but if there were, I normally think those are worth triple the value of a 9. So in that case, the PSA 10 value would be $3,000. So in the Simone Biles case, the QV score is $3,000 for a 10. And because this is a 4 and I look at that as 1% of a 10, I value this card as a $30 card. It's not in great shape, but it is a great card. So $30 I think is a fair price. And that's how I base it on. The 4 is 1%. You could look at the same thing with the 5. The 5 I look at as 2%. It's one up from the 4. And as you notice the math, every time we go up a number, it'll be doubling. So the 6 will be worth 4% if the 5 is worth 2%. In the case of Mia Hamm here, her card, this is a very special card too. It's the PSA 10 version. There's only one in existence. It sold for $34,440, which at the time was a women's sports card record a few months ago. That being said, this being a 2% worth of that, I would sell this at $688 if you're looking at what I value it at. Now, if you look at the retail market, people are selling this for anywhere from $200, $250. If you look at the market of ones that I've already sold, those have been going for close to $300. So, people are selling these readily at a cheaper price now, and they were going for $300. But I do believe the true value is higher than that. So the market right now, you're able to get good bargains for these cards right now, because I think in the future it will go up. And right now I think it's worth $688. But if I wanted to sell it, I'd have to market much cheaper. Like I said, the 6s are worth 4%. Again, the 4s are 1%, the 2s are 5%, the 6s are 4%. So this Jackie Joyner-Kersee card is worth 4% of whatever a 10 would go for. We have no idea what Jackie Joyner-Kersee, one of the greatest athletes of the 20th century, what her card would go for. But her sister's card as a PSA 8 about 6 months ago sold for $200. So $200, if you double it to make it a 9, it's $400. If you triple the 9 to make it a 10, remember when I go from 9 to 10, I triple it. That makes the FloJo card worth $1,200, her rookie card, which I believe was a 1990 Sports Illustrated Kids. This is Jackie's, her sister-in-law, and her 1989 SI Kids is her rookie card. So with this 6 being worth 4%, let's just say it's worth $1,200, like the FloJo card. Well, 4% of $1,200 is $48, which is what I estimate this to be valued at. Another thing that you'll see happen a lot with SGC cards is they'll come back with authentic grades. And people like that. I think the letter A isn't as much a turnoff as a low grade. And also, I notice they tend to sell for the same thing as what 6s go for. So because of that, I value this as a 4%, just like the other Jackie Joyner-Kersee card I have. So this is another card I would price at $48 if you're looking for fair market value. After that, we go to the 7s. If the 6s were worth 4%, the 7s are worth 8%. Here's the Diana Taurasi card. We saw a PSA 10 of this card sell for $1,575. So if you were to do the math on that, I think we're looking at, what did I just say? It's probably around, I can't even do the math right now. For the 4 up there, I think it's about $120 or something like that. And that's 8% of $1,575. And when you look at what her other cards have been selling for, comparable market value, similar in SGC, in this range, they probably go for 95 market and 125 retail. So basically, we're hitting the nose in the ballpark by going with these valuations. Now, if the 7 is worth 8%, I believe the 8s are worth 16%. And here's the Serena Williams card, the most mysterious card out there right now. Some people call it the Holy Grail card, the most valuable women's sports card out there, as a PSA 10. My version is only an SGC 8, but still 16% of whatever a PSA 10 goes for will be high value. If the PSA 10 sells for $30,000, then 16% of $30,000 is $4,800. If it sells for $50,000, 16% of that becomes a much bigger figure, $8,000 card. So as we can see, whenever that next PSA 10 card sells, it will affect the value of this one immensely. When I look at the 9s again, if that was a 16%, the 9s are worth 32%, or basically a third of whatever the 10s go for. So, looking at 32% of this Maria Sharapova card of whatever her 10 would go for, that's what I would sell it. So when you look at this being worth 32% and the 8 being worth 16%, there are grades out there that split the difference, the 8.5s, for instance, like this Diana Taurasi card. So in this particular case, if this is 32 and this is 16, I look at this card as in between as a 24%. So when you got the 8.5s, the 9.5s, the 7.5s, that's one good way of evaluating those cards and looking at that and giving them a percentage as well. Another way you might want to look at it, some people look at the 9.5s, for instance, as gem mint, and you make it equivalent to a 10 because a PSA 10 and a HGA 9 are probably the same grade because this is gem mint, PSA 10 is gem mint. So when I put this card for sale, I price it like a PSA 10 because to me, it's the same thing. It's equivalent to that. HGA and SGC, I've noticed for women's sports cards, are much tougher graders than PSA. So I have no problem asking for the same price because I know they are tougher graders. You can look at the medians of the top value cards out there. It's always a tougher grade. So I believe the HGA 9.5 is the same as a PSA 10 or maybe even better. And that way, when I look at the HGA 10s or even the SGC 10s, I give them even a higher value. How much more? I don't know. If you want to double the PSA 10 score, if you want to triple it, if you just want to 1.5 times it. But basically, I would price a pristine 10, like a Beckett 10, any one of these pristine or flawless or SGC scores, higher than PSA because PSA has been known in the past to give out, 10s more plentiful than the other card companies, especially when it comes to women's sports cards. I can't speak for NBA, NFL, and MLB, but that's been my experience looking these out. So when you want to price the cards, that's one way of doing it, just a simple comp of what the PSA 10s go for. But in women's sports cards, you don't always know what they're selling for. For instance, this Serena Williams card, there hasn't been a PSA 10 that's sold since January. Back then, it sold for $10,000. And then we saw the cards start to escalate where a PSA 9 sold for $6,850 in late February. So there's been no 9s or 10s that have sold ever since, which has made this card a mystery. It used to always outsell the Mia Hamm card, mostly by double. So when this card sold for nearly $35,000 a couple months ago, there was some speculation this could be worth $70,000. Now, nobody knows because nobody's put up a card for sale. And I believe there's only 9 or 10 PSA 10s in existence. So, if you're looking to sell the card and you need to sell the card for money's sake or what have you, you can look at what the market has asked for. I mean, a PSA 8 of this has sold for $1,852 and $1,315. Now, I believe that's bargain, pennies on the dollar to get it at that price. Because if you look at the retail price, what people are selling it for, I would say this card is now worth $5,360 when I use my QV scores. Because when you look at the cards that are on eBay selling right now, we see a Beckett 8.5 selling for $8,000. We see a SGC 8, this same card, selling for $5,900. And then we see Beckett 7.5 selling for $4,000. So those are much higher prices than the one has sold for the market value. So when it comes to women's sports cards, these are the type of things you need to look at. I believe you need to look at the QV score, what the grade translates to as a PSA 10. Then you got to look at the market, what they've actually sold for in the last few months and find out the average price for that. And then you got to look at the retail. The retail is what they're selling for right now, what people are asking for. That way you have an idea what they're sold for, what they're selling for now, and normally the average of that price is a good guide. For instance, if I was recommending a price for this Serena Williams card, if the market is telling me it's been selling for $1,583, but it's retailing right now, the cheapest prices you can find, the comp prices are $5,360, I would say split the difference, and that's probably a good fair price, which in this case would be $3,480. You do that with all your cards. Look at the QV score to translate it. Once you do that, you have a market value you can look up on eBay. You have a retail value. Again, market is what it's sold for. Retail is what people are asking for it. Do an average of those two, and I think you come up with a good ballpark figure. Anyway, there's other ways you can alter it. There's exceptions to be made, but in general, that's how I price cards on eBay, which is the title of this video. I hope I didn't lose you. I hope you're still here. If you are, thank you for watching this far, and God bless you for doing so.